He went undercover to see how his store was really running. But when he found an employee crying in the break room, he stopped cold. What he discovered next changed everything. The store buzzed with customers, employees moving quickly between aisles, stocking shelves, and helping shoppers. To anyone walking in, it seemed like business as usual. But for Ethan Carter, the CEO of Carter Retail, this wasn't just another visit. He was here, undercover. Dressed in a store uniform with a fake name tag, he blended in with the staff, watching how things really worked when the boss wasn't around. He wanted the truth, unfiltered. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. Then he heard it, a muffled sob. Ethan frowned and followed the sound toward the break room. The door was slightly open. Inside, a young woman sat at the table, her head in her hands, shoulders shaking. He hesitated. An employee crying at work? This wasn't something he could ignore. Stepping inside, he cleared his throat gently. "Hey, are you okay?" The woman flinched, quickly wiping her eyes and sitting up. "Oh, I'm fine. Just needed a minute." But she wasn't fine, not even close. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "I don't mean to pry, but it doesn't look like you're fine." She let out a shaky breath. "It's nothing. She hesitated, then sighed. "It's been a rough week." Ethan leaned in slightly. "Rough how?" She hesitated again, but something in his tone must have made her trust him. "My mum's in the hospital, bills are piling up, and now they cut my hours." Ethan's jaw tightened. His company had done this. She let out a bitter chuckle. "I don't even know how I'm going to afford rent this month." His fists clenched under the table. A hard-working employee, struggling like this. This was exactly why he had come undercover. And now that he knew the truth, he wasn't going to let it slide. Ethan kept his expression neutral, but inside he was furious. He had built Carter Retail with the idea that employees should be treated well, yet here was one of his own, struggling to survive. The woman, her name tag read Mia, sighed, rubbing her temples. "Sorry, I didn't mean to dump all that on you. I'm so tired." Ethan shook his head. "Don't apologize. You've been working hard, and they still cut your hours." Mia nodded, her eyes filled with frustration. "Yeah, they said sales were down, so they had to reduce shifts. But I know for a fact that the assistant manager, Mark, keeps giving extra hours to his friends while the rest of us are left scrambling." Ethan's jaw tightened. So that's how things were being run here? Favoritism? Unfair scheduling? Employees struggling while management looked the other way? Mia gave a dry laugh. "Not that it matters. I don't think corporate would care. We're just numbers to them, right?" Ethan's stomach twisted. Was that how his employees saw him? As someone who didn't care? He leaned forward. "If you could change something about this store, what would it be?" Mia blinked, surprised by the question. "I mean, fair scheduling would be a start. More full-time positions, maybe. People shouldn't have to beg for hours just to survive." Ethan nodded slowly. He had heard enough. He stood up, offering her a reassuring smile. "Thanks for being honest with me, Mia. You deserve better than this." Mia gave him a tired smile. "Thanks. But I doubt anything will change." Ethan's expression hardened. Oh, it would change, because tomorrow, when he walked back into this store, it wouldn't be as an undercover employee. It would be as the CEO, and heads were going to roll. The next morning, Ethan walked into the store, not as an undercover worker, but as the CEO. Dressed in his sharp suit, he strode through the entrance, his presence commanding immediate attention. Employees froze, managers stiffened. The carefree, relaxed energy from the day before was gone. The assistant manager, Mark, hurried over with a forced smile. "Mr. Carter, what a surprise. If we had known you were coming..." Ethan cut him off with a cold stare. "Exactly. You didn't know." Mark swallowed hard. He had no idea that Ethan had been watching everything from the inside. Ethan's gaze swept over the employees. Some looked hopeful, others nervous. But one person stood out, Mia. She stood near the registers, staring at him, realization dawning on her face. He wasn't just some random employee from yesterday. Ethan turned back to Mark. "I have a few questions about how you run this store." Mark forced a laugh. "Of course, sir. We always do our best to follow corporate policies." "Really?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Then explain why hardworking employees had their hours cut while your friends got extra shifts." Silence. The color drained from Mark's face. I don't know what you mean." Ethan didn't break eye contact. "Then explain why one of my employees, someone dedicated, reliable, and in need, was left struggling while you played favorites." Mark opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no excuse. Ethan turned to the store manager. "You let this happen under your watch?" The manager stammered. I wasn't aware." "That's the problem," Ethan said coldly. "You should have been." He took a step back, voice firm. "Mark, you're fired." Gasps echoed through the store. Mark paled. "Sir, please. I don't tolerate leaders who mistreat employees." Ethan turned to the store manager. "And as for you, you're on probation. If I don't see real changes here, you'll be next." The manager quickly nodded, too afraid to argue. Then Ethan faced the employees. "This store is going to change. Effective immediately, fair scheduling policies will be enforced, and full-time positions will be offered to those who need them." Hope flickered in their eyes. For the first time, they felt seen. Ethan's gaze landed on Mia. "And Mia?" She straightened. "Yes, sir?" "You're getting a promotion, effective today." Mia's eyes widened. I don't know what to say." Ethan smiled. "Say yes." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time, they weren't from pain. "Yes, thank you." As Ethan walked out of the store, he knew one thing for sure. He had come undercover to see how things were run. Now, he was making sure they were run right. A week later, the entire atmosphere of the store had changed. Employees who once dreaded their shifts now walked in with confidence. Schedules were fair, wages were improved, and favoritism was gone. Mia, now the new assistant manager, thrived in her role. She ensured no one went through what she had endured. She checked on employees, listened to their concerns, and created a supportive work environment, something Mark had never done. One afternoon, as she was organizing schedules, a familiar voice interrupted her. "How's the new job treating you?" Mia turned and saw Ethan standing near the registers, hands in his pockets, watching her with a knowing smile. Her chest tightened. The man who had once sat across from her in the break room, listening to her struggles, was now the reason her life had changed. She smiled. "Honestly, it still feels surreal." Ethan chuckled. "You earned it. I just made sure the right person got the job." Mia exhaled. "I still can't believe you were undercover." Ethan smirked. "Best way to find out the truth." Mia nodded, looking around at the now thriving store. "And did you?" His expression turned serious. "Yes, and I'll keep making sure this company never forgets the people who run it." Mia met his gaze, knowing he meant every word. This wasn't just about one store. It was about something bigger. She extended a hand. "Thank you. For everything." Ethan shook it firmly. "Thank you for reminding me why I built this company in the first place." As he walked away, Mia looked around the store, the same place where she had once felt invisible. Now, she belonged. And it all started because one man cared enough to listen. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was a future. 1 year later, Mia stood in the same break room where she had once cried over lost hours and unpaid bills. Only now, she wasn't an employee struggling to survive. She was the store manager. The store had transformed over the past year, Higher wages, better schedules, real opportunities for employees to grow. And it wasn't just this location. Ethan had implemented these changes across all Carter retail stores. He had kept his word. The company was no longer just about profit. It was about people. Just then a young cashier rushed in. "Mia, there's someone here to see you." Mia nodded, straightening her posture. "I'll be right there." As she stepped onto the store floor, her breath caught. Standing near the entrance in his signature tailored suit was Ethan Carter. She smiled and walked over. "Mr. Carter, I wasn't expecting you today." Ethan smirked. "Just checking in. Wanted to see how my best store manager is doing." Mia chuckled. "Your words, not mine." He glanced around, watching the employees working efficiently, laughing with customers, and feeling valued. It was a complete turnaround from the store he had first walked into. Ethan nodded, satisfied. "You made this happen, Mia." She shook her head. "Number you did, because you listened." He exhaled, a rare look of pride in his eyes. "Then let's make sure we never stop listening." Mia smiled. She had come so far, and as she looked around the store she once dreaded working in, she realized this wasn't just a job anymore. This was home.